Hi everyone, my name is Abby Jones, and this is my policy brief about modern day slavery. The policy area that this focuses on is the National Strategy for Child Exploitation Prevention and Interdiction, and it's a policy designed to organize the work of state and federal governments, as well as local law enforcement and other supporting agencies to support victims of child exploitation and to educate the public about the dangers of child exploitation as well. So, a brief history with this. In 1865, slavery was abolished from the United States. And from the years 1880 to 1900, the states changed the age of consent from 10 years old to 16 years old, which is still kind of young. But in 1910, the Mann Act was enforced and designed to fight against forced prostitution and transportation. And this act went through a few different amendments after that. So in 1978, the Mann Act was amended to protect both male and female minors from sexual exploitation. And then in the 1994, the Mann Act was amended to make it a felony to transport anyone under the age of 18 for prostitution or sexual acts. In 1986, child pornography grew to be almost extinct in America, but then in the 1990s, the internet came into play, which made child pornography a lot easier to create, access, and to distribute. So now kind of goes into our present day struggle with this. 1 in 3 girls are sexually abused before the age of 18, and 1 in 5 boys are sexually abused before the age of 18. 1 in 5 children are solicited sexually while on the internet before the age of 18. And then nearly 70% of all reported sexual assaults, including assaults on adults, occur to children age 17 and under. 90% of child sexual abuse victims know the perpetrator in some way. This last one I think is very interesting. 95% of sexual abuse is preventable through education. So the problem statement is that modern day slavery is still an issue that plagues our country today. One of the most prominent forms of this slavery is child exploitation. Child exploitation is very harmful to children and is a criminal offense. It is a rising problem in our country today that demands our attention to combat it. State, federal, and local governments should be responsible in enforcing the national strategy for child exploitation prevention and interdiction. There are also many private organizations that work hard to combat child exploitation as well. And it's really important because the number of children being exploited is rising every day. And since the birth of the internet, a dark industry has grown that purposely harms and exploits children to make a profit. It's very clear that policies and regulations need to be regularly enforced to combat this industry, but also educating people about this growing crime is very important. As mentioned before in the statistic, 95% of child sexual abuse can be prevented through education. So the more the public becomes aware, then the better prepared society and local governments will be for combating child exploitation. And so NASW is also very against human trafficking and child exploitation. This organization also agrees that this is a real danger and problem in our society today, and they encourage social workers to gain fundamental knowledge regarding human trafficking so they can sustain a leadership role in advancing the struggle against human trafficking in all of its forms and in both domestic and global contexts. One of the best ways to combat child exploitation is through education. And so my policy recommendation would be to have mandatory education course enforced in all public schools to educate children and their parents about the signs and dangers of child exploitation and what to do if they ever run into it. Child exploitation is a rising industry, and federal, state, and local officials need the help of the public to fight against it. Thank you so much for listening to my policy brief, and here are my references.